go to them as any individual and say, look, this is absolutely a funding. This is actually absolutely a fundraiser for legal fees. This is my attorney. My attorney's setting it up, and he wants to get it. I doubt there are many payment processors, fundraising sites in this country that would say, no, we're not going to allow it because of who you are and what you believe in, right?
Right.
What the reason these people have been banned is because they're, it's Joe Schmo showing up and saying, hey, I'm going to do a fundraiser for my buddy. Like, is that okay? Oh, no, actually, it's not okay because we don't know where that money is going to be going. You're not an attorney, and all these other reasons, So I think we can all agree, like, yes, of course, people are entitled to legal representation, but first of all, they get it. It's paid for by our tax dollars. And secondly, if you want to raise money to go and pay for a fancy attorney, there's lots of ways you can do it, just not specifically on platforms that have said you can't do it on ours.
Right. I think the one criticism that I understand from people is that, and I'm not too familiar with this part of it specifically, but apparently, I don't know where the income level or how that works, but apparently, it's the lawyers provided if you cannot afford one, and I don't know how they decide if you can afford one, right. And but if I'm not mistaken, one of the platforms, and to obviously add to your point here. One of the platforms that you wrote about that was part of this story was one of the platforms that Kyle Rittenhouse had used to raise funds for his own legal case. Of course, Rittenhouse is the 17-year-old man who shot and killed two Black Lives Matter protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin last summer. So, I mean, clearly, if you can prove that this money is connected to your legal funds, they're fine with you fundraising. I mean, I don't think there's a better proof than Rittenhouse's case itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Give, Send, Go right now has, at least a few dozen fundraisers connected to January 6th and people raising legal fees. That's just one.
That's me.
That's just one. One
what
fundraising
else did I have
site.
up
I mean,
there?
There are. Again, these people are able to go on all sorts of different platforms and ask for money. They're able to do it. They're able.
That's right.
I'm sure. There are anchors on Fox News who'd be happy to talk to some of these people and spread their message to millions of people. So the idea that there's some
if anybody goes to the Discord,
that don't have any way of raising money, I'm sorry, it's not true. I don't buy it whatsoever. And the idea that us writing a story pointing out the hypocrisy in certain tech companies and how they're dealing with people is a takedown of like people's legal right to representation. It's just absurd.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, where are we? Where are these individuals left right now? Now, are they? Have they set up new fundraisers on different platforms? I mean, like we keep talking about Stripe and PayPal and all these other major platforms that I think most people are familiar with. But I mean, there are dozens upon dozens of payment platforms out there that aren't Stripe and PayPal and Cash App. There's like Braintree and all these other, and then of course we're not even getting into where the right is really honing in on in terms of their online fundraising efforts, and that's decentralized systems like cryptocurrency with Bitcoin. I mean, I just had on a couple of weeks ago a guest who was going in depth about the $500,000 Nick Fuentes was gifted from a.
I think it was $200,000, right? It was like 500,000 to everyone, and he got 200,000 of it. Yeah.
Right. Yes, that's it. Yeah. A lot of money. Yeah, and from this like French software developer who ends up committing suicide after he donates this money. Just a bizarre story altogether. But
right.
But there's plenty of ways these guys are able to raise funds. So if your worry is that the right wingers, the fascists, the white supremacists, the white nationalists aren't able to make a living, fear not. I mean, it seems like they're finding ways. Now, what about the individuals that you wrote about?
I mean, same thing. I mean, I'm sort of moving away from that and doing some other reporting now and not kind of, tracking it. One of the things, and we had a discussion last week where we were like, look, let's just get this story out because every day there's a new processor showing up. We're going to have to do a whole bunch, a new fundraising. So we're going to have to do a whole bunch more reporting on it. Like, look, the moment our story came out, okay, some of those sites may fall out of favor with the tech companies, but there's going to be another one made tomorrow, and then there's going to be another one, then there's going to be another one. There are apparently in the works right now, payment processing companies, the people who actually, do the transactions, who are going to help support people on the far right. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. Like if that happens, then, we can write about it because it's something that happened. My job is to say what's happening. Is it of interest? Let's write about it. So, that's as all of this stuff evolves and develops, we'll keep an eye on it and we'll write about it. And I think it's interesting to people and, everybody's got their opinion. But, I do think it's just a bit silly to attack people for doing their jobs, and for actually trying to do their jobs well, and just assigning a whole different set of values and philosophies to something that clearly doesn't, clearly isn't trying to put those values across.
Right. So. I think there's, when you look at these cases, I do think there are, I think the federal government is trying to, I guess, send a message with a lot of these charges I'm seeing. And I think these people, obviously, everyone who's involved in this certainly has to deal with the consequences of their actions. But I do feel like there's, some of these people who what they did doesn't really amount to years and years in jail. So I think that's what I guess is hitting some people and making them angry. It's still, I mean, all you really have to do is read the piece, and you can find out that everything you're angry about is actually, in fact, not in the piece. I really do think that most of the people who are upset didn't actually read it.
I totally agree. And, funnily enough, I don't think I'll get into trouble for saying this, but I mean, this was not, a massively well-read story. I mean, it got plenty of reads, but not compared to, a lot of the other stories that we've written recently. So, I mean, that's my suspicion, is that most people have taken the outrage from here, and here, and have just made it like a big deal out of it, because it's just like, I mean, yeah, like you say, I mean, our story didn't say those things. They've seen a headline and they've ascribed like motives and ascribed reporting that we didn't do.
Right. And I, again, if you can't say anything about this, I totally understand, but I need to mention it because I see some people messaging me about it. Why didn't I reach out to have your colleague Brenna Smith on the program? And I did reach out to her. We spoke, and I'd love to have her on in the future. Hopefully we could work something out. But I think one of the reasons why this piece got so much blowback with everything you said in mind was that you had a young woman who on her Twitter profile is listed as she is listed in her bio an intern at USA Today as the first name on this piece.
Jump across.
And I think, honestly, as sad as it is, that sparks a lot of people to go after a young woman journalist. And at the same time, I sort of get angry at the people who were defending her for bringing up how she's just an intern, leave her be.
And I think listen to him to see what he's talking about.
No, she hasn't. No.
It was a station on an asteroid, but it got ripped off of an asteroid and floated off in space. So I landed it here.
Actually, I would never have. I don't get people who are doing that to defend her, because listen, the piece is good. It's a good piece. Defend the piece on the merits. She's a young journalist who wrote a good piece. There's no need to defend her because she's an intern. No, you defend her because she wrote a good piece. I mean, that's really what.
Well, I mean, let's not also ignore the fact that, very quickly on Twitter, the attacks became very personal against my colleague, and were were very personal and very hurtful in nature and went into a whole different realm.
A little medical.
You know, I mean, it went from criticizing the journalism to people who clearly didn't know anything about the journalism or weren't interested in it and wanted to pile hate on a young woman at the beginning of her career, you know, and that's really sad. And it's really sad that people would do that. But I mean, that's, you know, the sad reality of where we are. And I mean, there's no doubt that that was also, you know, if not ignited by, then certainly pushed along by, you know, white males of a certain age with a big following on Twitter, you know, so it's a big issue, and thankfully it sparked a conversation about the way that women are treated, you know, on social media. It's also sparked an outcry from the right about old journalists, you know, crying about abuse online and everything else. Look, I mean, this is a tough job, and you know, if there's one thing that my colleague has learned, you know, over the last sort of week or so, it's that, you know, you do have to have a thick skin to be in this game, and you do. I mean, I'm getting voicemails right now that I know the moment I pick them up are going to be full of like people shouting at me and telling me I'm a hack and everything else, and that's just part of the territory of being a journalist in 2021. It's not okay, but I mean, it's part of the work that we do. And, you know, Brenna's, you know, a very, very smart and able young lady who's going to go on to a fantastic career. And I think this was a baptism of fire to a certain extent, but it also, you know, shows the extent of the work that she can do and the ability of the work that she does, you know. So, yeah, fully support her, and I think it's sad that things kind of degenerated the way that they did.
Right. Will Carlos, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything, just to make sure, is there anything you think that we didn't hit that you want to just make sure we mention, or?
No, I think we did well. Yeah, I think we did well. I think we covered most of this stuff. Look, I mean, you know, we're not in every good writer, every good journalist knows that your biggest friends are your biggest critics, you know, and we want criticism. Like, I want my editor to take my story and rip it apart and say, like, this is rubbish, you need to make this better, and we're not in any way averse to criticism. No good journalist is averse to criticism, but sometimes, you know, there's criticism, sort of criticism for the sake of criticism that doesn't really, you know, that just doesn't hit home. And I think, you know, I'm the first person to stand up and say, I screwed up on this thing. You know, I didn't make this. I didn't write this right. I made some mistakes. I don't think that happened here. I think you had people who misinterpreted, who ascribed, motives to us that weren't there, and you know, and I'm perfectly happy with that. But look, I mean, I'll listen to anybody, and if they want to change my mind, they can, you know, hit me up.
Right. I just really quick. I just remembered a really funny response I got, because I sort of got wrapped up in this discourse too, because I just thought it was online. I could not believe the outrage over this. So someone had actually said to me, you know, one of these types, probably young white male who feels like he longs for the days of the old school, fearless, independent, truth to power journalism that apparently he believes doesn't exist anymore. He said, you know, we got wrapped up in this debate, and I said, well, a number of these platforms that are in the piece actually said that they're going to continue fundraising for these individuals, and the piece basically reports that and leaves it at that. Doesn't like try to force them to change their mind. Isn't like there's nothing that what you think is there is not there. And they said, well, why did they write about it? And I said, because it's a story. There's a trend going on here. And these big tech companies were basically, some of them at least, were lying to them about what was going on this platform. And they were like, well, if these journalists keep writing about it, don't you think those companies are going to be forced to crack down on them? And I could not believe this person said that. Like, did they not understand that this, like, again, fearless, independent journalism is what this person's longing for, yet the journalist shouldn't write about this company, otherwise the company might change their ways, and some, you know, basically saying that these companies should be able to dictate what the journalists cover and how they cover it. It's like that's the whole point of writing about these tech companies. It's to make them take a stand, and if they want to take that stand, that's great. We'll write about it, and they could deal with whatever public blowback they want to take from that.
I would push back on that slightly and say, I don't think the whole point of it is to make tech companies take a stand. I think the whole point of it is to, I've always seen my job as a journalist as being a passer on of information, a spreader of information, and what happens to that information is by the by. Like if something is unjust, if something is untrue, if something is simply out of whack, then it's my job to write about it. And what companies or governments go on to do with that information is up to them. That's my position as a reporter, and simply passing on that information, I don't think there's anything wrong with, and I stand 100% behind what we did.
Right, I completely agree. Will, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything you want to plug? Any upcoming piece? Any link? Any Twitter, Facebook,
I've got a
profile?
big story dropping next week that I think will hopefully cause a bigger splash than this. So follow me on Twitter. At Will Carlos.
All right, great. Now I'm excited I might have to reach back out to you if maybe have you back on. Thanks so much, Will. Take care. Great. Have a great night.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers. You too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to. Oh, what time is it? Let's. There's some things There's some. Some. What does Sam Cedar usually call it on the Majority Report? Some house cleaning. Let us. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. Support this show by going to Patreon and subscribing if you can afford to do so. If you cannot, again, time's tough. I completely understand. But you will join some of these wonderful people like, I can't remember if I mentioned them last week, so let me mention them this week. Kiwi M, brand new patron. Domas S, brand new patron. Colorbox, another brand new patron. And Sarah A, my most recent patron and the very last patron to join the show in the month of March 2021. Thank you guys so much for becoming a member of this program and supporting the show financially. Could not do this without you. And as you all know, it's the beginning of the month, April 1st. April Fool's Day, I should say. And if you've caught my other beginning of the month shows, you'll know that this is when Patreon usually charges everybody. And that means people will cancel, cards will be declined, and of course, I will lose some patrons. And of course, I lost some patrons. So if you could support this show, as always, the beginning of the month, we lose some people. It'd be super helpful to gain those people back. And if you can afford to do so, you can be one of those people. Patreon.com/MattBinder. Show is growing. Every month we gain more subscribers than the last month. And when it gets to a certain point, I'd love to be able to really build out the show in a way that extends the amount of stuff I do. And if you're watching live right now, you could drop a super chat. I'll read all the super chat questions. YouTube.com/MattBinder. Drop a super chat. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a comment. Whatever. I'll read it. Also, I should mention, on this day, 10 years ago, excuse me, I need a drink. On this day, 10 years ago, April 1st, 2011, it was my first official day working for the Majority Report with Sam Cedar. That was the very beginning of my career in, I guess you could say, progressive media, online, digital, sort of. I worked for a new startup before the Majority Report, but it was, I would say, I cemented myself in this world on that day. And 10 years, a whole decade, man. Whole decade. Who knows what I'd be doing if Sam didn't hire me on this day 10 years ago. Maybe I'd be making a whole lot more money. Thanks a lot, Sam. Invisible Ninja with a $10 super chat says $10-ish for 10 years. Oh, because he gave it $9.99 super chat. $10-ish for 10 years with MR. And of course, for all you do, support the Patreon peeps. Love you, Binder. Sword, crossing swords emoji, heart emoji. Thank you, Invisible Ninja. I really appreciate the kind words and the support. It means a lot to me. Yeah. You can also support this show by subscribing on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Doomedpod.com is the website for the audio version of this show. All those links to those podcast platforms I've mentioned to you should be right there on the site. Follow me on social media, wherever, at Matt Binder. Usually, that's who I am on Twitter, Instagram. Search me anywhere, really, by just going Matt Binder. I'll pop up. What else? Oh, I'm going to say again, youtube.com/Matt Binder. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're a YouTube subscriber, you might have noticed something different this week. Almost every day this week, I uploaded content. Now, let me explain what's going on here. A very generous listener reached out to me, and this individual is helping me by basically taking the show each week, finding some good segments, clipping them out for me, and sending them over. So all I got to do is upload them, throw on a title, description, and click publish. And thanks to that person, it's honestly a huge help. I can't thank them enough. And hopefully, if I was able to grow the Patreon to a healthy point, I'd be able to monetarily thank this person. But this person is generously volunteering their time. Luckily, they are regular listeners to the show, so they're able to listen and cut while they listen. Otherwise, I'd feel really bad if they had to, if I was forcing them to listen to this show. But really, so thanks to this person, you will be getting, I don't know about every day, but multiple clips each week at youtube.com/MattBinder. The clips are good because, if you're not, there's the live stream audience who likes to sit and watch a 2 to 3 hour marathon. But then, you can't really share that stuff with your passive political friends. You need to share like a quick 2 to 20 minute clip, I guess, to really get people, to satiate people's attention span, I guess. What else? What else do I want to plug? I don't know what else I want to plug. I've got no idea. Oh, if you guys can leave an iTunes review, I will appreciate it immensely. The show is actually like in the top 100 podcasts in the news commentary section. And that usually happens with a combination of podcast downloads and positive reviews. So, also, if you're not a podcast listener, so you don't subscribe to the iTunes feed, please consider just subscribing so Apple sees the numbers. Again, it really, it helps. And, the reviews really, really help. So, again, all you got to do is go on Apple Podcasts, I think it is. I keep saying iTunes because it's so ingrained in my head after, I don't even know how many years. 8 years of it being iTunes, I was uploading podcasts too. So just, go to Apple Podcasts, click that 5-star review, leave a sentence or two description saying whatever the hell you want about this show. And only leave 5-star if you think it's a 5-star show. I mean, I would love the 5 stars, but I'm not gonna. I want you to give me what you think I deserve. So again, friends, thanks for all your support. We got a bunch of super chats flying in. I'll get to those in the second half of the show. I will open the phones, but I got a lot of stories to get to. So I'm going to open the phones. If you want to call in, go on Skype, log on to Skype right now. Doomed Live is the username. Type in Doomed Live, it'll come up. I'll take maybe 1-2 calls, and then I have a few stories I want to hit.